Thank you, Dr. Joseph and Wesley Seminary, for this opportunity. I am both humbled by the ask and grateful for the time to share about what it is that God has been up to in my life since becoming a part of Wesley Seminary family. In the summer of 2015, it was at the altar of an evening camp service, I felt God start to move in my life in a new and different way. At that time, he laid two very clear words upon my heart. They were prepare and obey. And although I really didn't know at that point what God was up to, I set out on a quest to discern what those words meant for my life. I did a lot of self-reflection and found areas of my life where I wasn't making God the center. Although I loved God and I was active in my church, I still wasn't living a life that was fully surrendered to God. I was more concerned with pleasing people around me and trying to be the person they wanted me to be, instead of leaning closely into the person that God wanted me to be. I was also working to figure out what God meant by prepare. Prepare for what? Maybe I needed to teach a new Sunday school class or lead a new Bible study, and I did those things, but it still wasn't what God meant. As I continued to pray for God's guidance, I began to realize that he was calling me into a life of full-time ministry. I started researching what it would look like to go back to school. You see, at that point in my life, I had been an administrator for many years. I had an undergraduate and graduate degree in business. I loved my job. I had lots of security, but I knew that God had a new plan for my life. At that point, I began meeting with different ministry leaders in my community to determine what program would be best for me. One such conversation took place with Dr. David Smith, who at that time was the dean of Wesley Seminary. He was the first person to mention to me the Master's in Divinity program. And although I certainly knew that the MDiv was a great program, it was for pastors. It wasn't for me. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't called enough. It was for other people, better people. But in that moment, God used Dr. Smith to begin this transformation in my life that I never expected. I wrestled with the decision to join the MDiv program for 3 very long days. Honestly, I was a little angry at God that he would want to turn my life upside down and make me work that hard. But then God reminded me that I had promised to live a life of surrender and that I would prepare and obey. So after 3 very long days, I surrendered. I stand before you today as a person that God has transformed in ways that I never saw coming, and Wesley Seminary was key in that transition. Over the course of this program, God has used so many people from this amazing faculty, as well as my fellow classmates, to speak great words of truth in my life. This isn't just any seminary. This is a body of people that want to team with us as students and help us succeed in whatever path God is calling us to. God used people like Dr. Lucetti to help me find the preacher that was hidden inside that I tried really hard to suppress. He used teachers like Dr. Levicheva to help me understand how to dig into scriptures and let the Bible come alive in new and exciting ways. He used men like Dr. Eby and Dr. Perry to help ensure that I don't lose myself as I jump headfirst into full-time ministry, as they taught me practical ways to stay healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And these are just a few of the men and women that worked to shape me into the ministry leader I am today, and the ministry leader I pray I become. There were days I didn't think I would survive the stretching and the molding that God was doing in my life. It took long days with early mornings and late nights to get to this point, but with God's guidance, the support of Wesley Seminary, and the encouragement of my family and friends, I did more than survive. I thrived. I am beyond thankful that I can stand before you today and testify to the greatness of our God. I continue to prepare and obey for God's call upon my life. I've come to realize that these 2 words weren't just for one season, but rather they were a calling for a lifetime. Thank you.